If you're thinking about going into the Big Four, but you're not sure who you would work for, today I'm going to talk about Big Four audit clients. The cool story is that every big company in America, 100% of the Fortune 500 are audited by one of the Big Four. But interestingly, it's not one big fish in the room. There are many, many different diverse opportunities for companies that you can work for. And if you have a specific client that you want to work for, it might tie back to the Big Four firm that you would want to go work for as well. Now, this is specifically for the audit practices and doesn't necessarily reflect what you would do in tax, in assurance, or in the consulting practices. But it's also really helpful for you to know, just if you're thinking about going into Big Four and specifically Big Four audit. Let's dive into each of the firm's specific client lists. First, we'll talk about Deloitte audit clients. There are a number of top firms that Deloitte is focused on auditing. So let me just read out a couple of the big names that you'll recognize. Number one, Microsoft, legacy company, incredible opportunities for auditing. Number two, Starbucks, complicated, on the ground audit firms have a lot to do for every different retail location. Berkshire Hathaway is number three. Berkshire Hathaway, of course, the famed investor Warren Buffett's company, holds multiple other sub-companies, and there are a lot of private companies inside Berkshire Hathaway that need their own audit practices that roll up to auditing for Berkshire Hathaway as a whole. Number four, Best Buy, both their back office and their operations for e-commerce, as well as their stores. Lots to think about on the audit practice for Best Buy. Number five is BlackRock. BlackRock is a distributed financial services company that has holdings in hundreds of other companies. And so Deloitte doesn't just have to audit BlackRock, but many of its holding companies as well. Number six is Comcast. Just imagine trying to value and account for all of the infrastructure that a firm as large as Comcast has, with its different divisions, as well as some of its old legacy telecom divisions. Lots to think about with Comcast. Number seven is Discover Financial Services. If you're one of the few who hold Discover cards, they have great benefits, by the way, then Discover Financial Services is going to be a really interesting client that Deloitte works with. Next, we'll talk about PwC audit clients. There are a number of great audit clients for PwC, but I'm going to highlight some of the specific ones. Number one, and their largest, is Exxon. Just imagine valuing and accounting for and auditing all of the books for Exxon. Number two is Tesla. Of course, Tesla has had some really interesting moves recently. Lots to think about there. Number three is Disney. Wow. The Disney princesses, you've got Disney parks, you've got Disney movies, you have all kinds of different Disney practices. Again, very complicated and a lot to think about on the audit side. Number four is PayPal. Now, you might not have thought about it before, but PayPal doesn't just offer eBay services. They're a complicated financial transactions company, and so there's a lot to think about on their audits. Number five is 3M. 3M has everything from healthcare to tape, and they make a ton of physical products. Physical product audits are a little different than just banking or book audits. Number six is JP Morgan Chase. JP Morgan Chase is a diversified banking company. So they have, of course, Chase credit cards, but they also have their banking facilities. Lots to think about for JP Morgan Chase. And finally, Johnson & Johnson, great consumer products company, and they do more than you would have ever thought. Next, we'll move on to EY audit clients. You're going to find that a couple of these are specific to a certain region and industry, and that might give you a hint about some of the powerhouse areas for EY. Number one is Alphabet. Alphabet, otherwise known as Google, or now the parent holding company of Google. Number two is Amazon. Of course, tremendous audit practice for Amazon specifically. Number three is Apple. Apple, based, of course, in Cupertino in the South Bay of San Francisco. Apple has not just products and services in the United States, but all over the world. AT&T, really complicated business practices, very essential for the audit practice to be on their game there. Delta Airlines, you've got everything from planes to lost baggage and everything in between. Really interesting auditing and accounting practices for Delta Airlines. Number 6 is HP. Did you even know they were still around? They're actually a massive company, and HP has a lot going on, not just products, but also services. Finally, McDonald's. How fun that you could maybe work for the Golden Arches if you were going to work at EY. Last, but of course not least, is KPMG. KPMG has an audit practice that really focuses on a number of different diversified companies. Some of these are a little smaller than the big kahunas, but they have a very wide range of options for their audit practice. Number 1 is Visa. Visa has a very, very interesting business practice and business model. It would be interesting for you to read their 10K and 10Q to understand a little bit more about it and know that behind it is KPMG. Number 2 is PepsiCo. Number 3 is Hershey. Number 4 is General Electric. And that's not just their physical practice, but also their financial services. Number 5 is American Airlines. And number 6 is Pfizer. Now think about accounting for Pfizer in particular, right? You have some things that are in R&D for years. How do you account for that? And then other products that are, of course, in the market being sold, some that are expiring and being written off. There's a lot to think about for a company like Pfizer. Any of these firms, all of the big 4 audit firms, are going to focus on clients that they built a long-term legacy relationship with. It makes the news every single time a firm switch their auditor from one to the other. And a lot of firms really focus on making sure that they have the same auditor year over year, because understanding the business practices of an organization can be incredibly complicated. Now, for you, you get the opportunity to learn about audit and accounting when you step into these practices under people who have usually been with these client companies for years. If you're interested in learning more about the big 4, whether it's consulting, audit, tax, or assurance, and if you're interested in getting a world-class resume edit to prepare for a job in the big 4 and beyond, we would love to help.